Thanks for staying up later. After a couple of years, Chris Elliott has found it within himself to come back. He is, of course, Chris Peterson, the 31-year-old paperboy on Fox TV's Get a Life, one-time regular on the Letterman program. Now, I understand it was traumatic the last time you were here because you were with your dad, Bob Elliott, one half of the legendary Bob and Ray radio team, and,
right.
and you were touring to promote your book,
yeah,
Daddy's Boy, and, you know, that was a gut-wrenching experience for you.
Well, it practically tore my relationship apart with my father and almost killed him, I think. It was a horrible, grueling 2 weeks, and we started it off right here.
You know, it shook me, and I wasn't even directly involved, but just reading it to see how your life had been blighted by the tyrannical rule of this oppressive parent.
That's right. Well, the whole point, you know, was for me to finally get all that out in a book, and my dad was writing every other chapter. He sort of rebutted what I said, and I found out after we had finished the book that he hadn't read any of my chapters at all. So the book has kind of a surreal feel to it.
You know, for those who didn't see that show or have blocked it from their memory as a way to cope, I didn't realize just how obese you were as a teenager.
I was about 350 pounds, and I sat in bed all day. I ate about 6 pounds of bacon for breakfast, a couple of loaves of bread, a couple of dozen eggs.
Yeah.
My best friend in life was Dick Gregory.
Oh, he saved so many.
Yeah.
He's selflessly come to the aid of so many people,
really
and he gives them those liquid potions, and then they just shrink.
Yeah, and he has that whole deal-a-meal thing.
Is that? Maybe not.
I don't know.
The other trauma that stands out, and really it's cruel of me to bring this back, and we'll move on after this, but the birthday party where Charles Kuralt and Andy Rooney wrestled
That was my
shirtless.
6th birthday party, Bob, and it was a traumatic birthday party. I was not allowed to invite any of my own friends. Instead, my dad invited all of his friends. And so there was Charles Kuralt, there was Andy Rooney, and as you said, part of the entertainment was they took off their shirts and wrestled each other. For a 6-year-old kid, come on, that's a little, that goes over the line.
You know, and you have to spend a whole life climbing out from that sort of emotional ditch that an unfeeling parent dumps you in.
I really don't think I have yet. I really don't think I have. No, it's tough. It's definitely tough. But I'm getting on with things now. Yeah, I'm a survivor. That's what I like to call myself.
People magazine cover coming up?
Yeah, I think so. Either that or Overweight Men magazine. That'll probably be me.
Tell me about how you started out on the Letterman show. How did you hook up with him?
There's a neat story, and it's a true story. When Dave had his morning show here, I was a tour guide at Rockefeller Center, and part of my duties was I was responsible for selling tickets to the observation deck. And Dave's show had been canceled, and he came up to the observation deck, I think with his mother, and because I thought it was his mother, I sold him the kiddie fair ticket to the observation deck. And he thought that was funny, and that's the cool part of the story. The uncool part of the story is that, because then again he remembered me when I came and applied for a job at Late Night, the uncool part of the story is that I acted like a complete jerk with him. I immediately told him who my dad was. I blurted that out right away. My dad's Bob of Bob and Ray, if that helps me at all in your eyes. And then he said, oh, I'm a big fan of Bob and Ray. I'd love to get him on The Tonight Show sometime when I host it. And for some reason I said, oh, my dad doesn't do The Tonight Show unless Johnny Carson hosts. And he was like, oh, yeah, all right. And he kind of walked away. But
so you ingratiated yourself from the outset. And we can see it was all downhill from there.
It was pretty much all downhill. But then I applied. Actually, Lou Del Pret, who's on your show right here, introduced me to the producer of Late Night. And I came to Late Night to be a graphics coordinator, to sort of get the photos for the funny photo pieces and so forth from UPI and AP. And when I applied for the job, I found out that job was taken by somebody else. And I had already quit my job at PBS, so I almost didn't take the job at Late Night. I remember leaving this building in tears, walking through the lobby in tears, and it was actually my dad and my mom that talked me into taking the job. Basically because they wanted me out of the house.
I can't let this reference slide. You quit your job at PBS?
Yeah.
What, were you the writer for the McNeil Lehrer Report? What?
Oh, I was praying you were going to let that slide. No, that's where I knew Lou from. I worked at a show called Inside Story, believe it or not, with Hot and Carter. He had a little variety show with a bunch of dancers. And,
Animal acts.
Yeah, jugglers and things like that. And no, it's some show that assessed the press's, how the press responded to news stories in the past week. And it was very dry and very dull. Hotting. But I liked Hotting quite a bit. You know, I met some people through there that worked here at NBC.
So when was the first time you got on camera on the Letterman show?
Actually, the first week of the shows, Dave had me come out there was a piece we did, it was on urban disguises, ways to disguise yourself in the city so you wouldn't be mugged or so forth, or you could go about your business. And I came out dressed entirely as garbage. Which might be apropos right now. But you couldn't see my face at all. And for some reason, when the show was played back that night, the whole Eastern Seaboard, that part of the show was blacked out. The feed was blacked out for about 5 minutes. So the next night he had me come on in the garbage suit, but this time you could see my face. And I remember he asked me, you know, what my friends in the audience had thought of my performance the night before, and I said that they had told me it was the funniest thing they had seen in North America. And that got a big laugh, and it made Dave laugh. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, all I got to do is make this guy laugh, and then I can come back on the show. And so that's what I did. I always just tried to make Dave laugh, and if I could make Dave laugh, I knew I would be able to be on the show the following week.
Which character of all the ones you did, the panicky guy, regulator guy, there was a takeoff on the David Jansen, there was the fugitive guy,
right.
There was the guy under the seats that was driving Dave nuts. What's the one that people reacted to the most?
Well, the guy under the seats, for sure.
Yeah.
It was the most surreal and the most abrasive of the characters. It was just, again, the whole idea was me, Chris Elliott, normal staff member, trying desperately to break into television, and but the way I did it was I came up with this plan to come up from underneath the seats as a little character, whether it was a Russian Cossack or you know, a snowman or whatever it was that I came up as.
You know what I really liked about this one, Chris? Usually you just come up and say hello or hi or you interrupt or something, but this time you really got to do some acting. I mean, you came up and you said, "My name is Laylock, King of the Mole People," and I think that really took guts.
Guts?
Yeah, guts.
Just what the hell do you know about guts, Mr. Cue Card Reader?
I'd come up, do a little scene with Dave, and then as I went down, would go back down under the seats, Dave would usually say something that would make me really mad and make me snap, and I would become somewhat psychotic with him.
I don't want to get involved in another one of these.
You know something, mister? One of these days, I'm going to have to turn you inside out. Oh, what a beautiful sight that will be. But until that day, I'll be right here, making your life a living hell. Watching you, watching everything you do, whether it's giving Larry Bud Millman a star on the Walk of Hollywood or whatever the hell that was, I'll be watching you. I see you. I see you, Dave.
People seem to respond quite a bit to that.
Now, the one that I thought was really off the board was Marlon Brando.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing him, I think, probably the most, because it was the easiest to do. But the whole concept with Marlon Brando was, it just grew out of me up in the office, pretending to be Marlon, walking around the office, bugging the PAs, you know, screwing up the copying machine, you know, busting the coffee maker and so forth. And it started making people laugh in the office, but it also was really bugging people in the office. And eventually, Adam Resnick, who's a co-creator on Get a Life, actually, and who used to write it late night, and myself just found a way to work it onto the show where Marlon just sort of walked onto late night a la Bob Hope and then bugged Dave in the same way I was bugging the PAs upstairs.
Oh, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And may I be so bold as to interrupt your little late night with Larry King Live, which I was watching in the green room. It's very funny. Now, this evening, ladies and gentlemen, the fellas, Ringo and the fellas and I, put together a little something. It's called My Famous Banana Dance. And it's something that I perform on my island regularly, and I perfected some years back. And before we perform it, I'd just like to say, before we do it, that we hope we do not offend. All right, now just one moment. Let me prepare for it. Let me throw out the bananas here. I'm going to put them right here. All right, fellas, you ready? Yeah. Okay, on you. Go ahead, Ringo. Hit it. Here we go. All right, there we go. Bananas. Ah. Bananas!
And we sort of concocted this image of Brando that he was just kind of nuts, you know, because people hadn't seen him for a while. And then this is funny because like a year after I stopped doing him, he started to make a comeback, and you started seeing him talking to Connie Chung and so forth, and I realized we weren't that far off the mark.
There we go. Bananas. There we go, boys. Bananas. All right, that's it. Thank you, Carl. I love you. All right.
When you see the ratings each week for Get a Life, which is
Yes.
a network television show,
Uh-huh.
but it's a low-rated show,
Yeah.
you have to say, thank heavens for Fox, because there's no way this
That they
number
have- that they don't.
sustains in prime time on one of the former big three, right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes, you say thank heavens, it also gets you a little, you know, riled that, you know, you're in that time slot. We're in kind of a dismal time slot right now. We're on 9:30s on Saturdays, which is hard, you know, for people that were fans of the show last season to stay home on Saturday nights. You know, Saturday night, even in my family, we don't go out on Saturday night, but it's kind of an event night. You know,
Yeah.
you sort of watch a movie or rent a movie or do something. They're actually moving us on the 29th of this month. They're moving us to Sundays as well, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right. The ratings, you know, on any other network, they wouldn't survive. But on the other hand, on any other network, I never would have gotten the show on the air in the form that it's on. And I think the show's great, and you know, it has a hardcore following that enjoys it quite a bit.
See, I see this as a really difficult choice on a Sunday night for somebody who can't decide whether to watch Murder, She Wrote or your show.
Well, we're not going after the Murder, She Wrote crowd.
My point exactly.
Jeez.
I mean, when you say you got a hardcore audience, that's the whole idea. I mean, that's the best thing about the Fox network, about the proliferation of cable. You know, people mock television, and with plenty of good reason. But when you've got so many different outlets now,
Right.
you have the chance to have shows that are really of intense interest, maybe to a smaller audience, but it really tickles them.
Right. No, I think, you know, if Fox wasn't around, the show could have had a chance on, you know, HBO or Showtime or one of those areas. But, you know, even though the ratings are low, right now I'm reaching a much larger audience than I've ever reached before, you know, with this show. And people come up to me now that have no idea that I was the guy under the seats or the fugitive guy or the regulator guy, and they like Get a Life, and I'm you know, surprised. It's nice.
Now, I haven't seen every episode of Get a Life like some of the fanatics, but I've seen several.
Yeah.
How about the one where you wanted to be what we all want to be?
A male model? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was last season. That was one of the early episodes where you know, the great thing about the character is he just wakes up in the morning and just decides, okay, I'm going to do this. And that's the plot for that night. And so I decided I want to be a male model, and I go to a male modeling school and train to do this. And my first job for a photo layout, the photographer makes me take off my shirt. And, well, I react kind of emotionally to that, having to show my body.
Very natural. And the poses are just, they're kind of like pouring out of me.
Okay, take your shirt off, right?
Do what?
Take your shirt off. You said you're a professional model, man. We gotta have this for the ad.
Well, nobody said anything about taking the shirt off.
Don't worry about it. You're doing fantastic.
Good.
There it is.
This is what you're talking about. No, that's it. I'm not modeling anymore for the two of you. Well, I guess I just have my first taste of the filthy side of this business.
How does it turn out?
I crash a runway show. Don't ask me why, it's just the show. I snap a little, and I think I can be a male model at the end, and I actually crash a runway show at a local department store.
Another one I saw was where you dreamt that you wanted to go to New York, as every Midwestern boy does. But
Yeah.
it's the New York of like 1949 or something.
Yeah, we did. Well, I had seen The Private Lives of Walter Mitty a couple of weeks earlier, and I thought it would be cool if we did a show where I came to New York, but for some reason we would just use 1940s back screen footage, so and everybody in the town would sort of be set back in the 40s, because I just liked that look, and I thought it would be a cool, surreal kind of show. And also, we were looking at the time, we were very over budget on Get a Life. It was one of the last shows last season, and we were looking for a real bottle or cheap show to do that week. And we figured, okay, no real sets, just this back screen stuff, or blue screen, as it's called. And it turned out to be one of the most expensive, complicated shows we have ever done. But also one of the ones that people respond to the most. They thought it was really neat looking, and I'm pretty proud of the show. I think it looks cool.
Watch it. Hey, look at me! I didn't hear an excuse me.
Big fella, you looking for a good time?
No, I just want to stand here all day and get jostled until my shoulder separates.
Ooh, a tough guy, huh? I think I can handle that.
Wait a second. Oh, my gosh. You're one of those filthy, lice-ridden prostitutes, aren't you? Jeez. You know what? I got to get a picture of you for my mom. Do you mind? Smile. Great. Thanks a lot. Oh, now I have to wash up. Do you have a wet nap on you? Preferably one that's unscented, because I have allergies.
Couple of evenings prior to Christmas, spending a warm half hour with Chris Elliott of Fox TV's Get a Life.
Fire feels great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a sense of Noel here. Don't you get it?
It's very, very festive.
Does your real-life dad get it, the stuff you do? Does he appreciate it?
I don't think so at all.
Really?
I think he's becoming more and more baffled the more he sees of what I do. He laughs heartily at things, but I don't know for sure if he understands it, or I don't know if I do. I mean, there's nothing really that deep to it except that it's me being goofy. I'm talking purely about Get a Life. I mean, there was definitely more of a surreal performance art edge to the stuff I did on Late Night than Get a Life. Get a Life to me is just plain, goofiness,
It's pretty hard to break character with this Chris Peterson guy, because there's almost nothing too dorky for this guy, once you've established the character, to be expected to do.
Right. No, the great thing that I love about him is that I've turned into what I used to make fun of.
Don't we all, eventually? Isn't this the common malady?
I guess so. I hope so.
Look, collect as much money as you can and then get out and have a real life.
Well, the thing about the character is that he's pure. All he is just attitudes. It's just me doing different goofy attitudes, things that I've seen on television, actors that I've seen do things. And I've never really thought that I'm acting. It's stuff that I've done since I was in high school and stuff that I did at Late Night, just around the offices and at PBS with Hot and Carter. And it really bugged him.
Now, with your dad, though, it's such a contrast, because here's a guy who made a whole career out of being so ordinary. The very blandness and uninspired nature of it was the whole shtick.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, his early stuff was sort of had a lot more in common with what I do. When Bob and Ray first started out, I've seen clips of them on the Ed Sullivan Show and their own television show that was on in 1952 and 53 that is pretty crazy. I mean, he's putting on fake mustaches and wigs and stuff. And, it's a little different than what you think of now as Bob and Ray being the two guys in the suits sitting, like this, having a funny interview. So maybe I'll change. Maybe by the time I'm 50, I'll start wearing a suit and sit down and do more dry humor. But right now, I'm having a good time doing this.
It's time for us to get out of here. We're preempted tomorrow night. Then we're back on Christmas night with the first of two shows with John Mellencamp. Thoughtful as always, though. Look at that angelic expression. Chris has gone out of his way to bring me a Christmas present.
I hope this doesn't embarrass you,
Well.
but I had to do it. I'm living out in Hollywood now with Get a Life. Let me just tell you a little something about this very special gift. And out there right now, what's very big is nostalgia. Everyone's into nostalgia.
Oh, sure.
And the last time I came to New York, I did Dave Letterman's Little Dog and Pony Show, and I bought him something rather expensive. It was Judy Garland's pantyhose from the later years, Judy Garland. And they gave me a certificate of authenticity, and I think Dave has those up on his mantelpiece right now. But this is something along the same lines that I got for you that I found in the same nostalgia shop. It's Nostalgia Hollywood, I'll tell you right now, and that's for you to open.
Should I open it now?
If you could. I know it's a little early, but
Well,
I'm going back to Hollywood.
I think we can get an early jump on Christmas because I'll have enough other presents under the tree.
Okay.
But this kind of has a strange consistency to it.
Well, that's the way I wrap it. I'm sorry I didn't have time for a card.
Isn't it? See, this is...
Do you like it?
Very much. What is it?
You know, I really don't know. They said it belonged to Lucille Ball.
Well, in that case, I'll cherish it always.
This is the certificate of authenticity, and I have my suspicions it's like melted cheese.
Yeah.
But to be on the safe side, Bob, I wouldn't eat it. Okay, 'cause it's probably not good now. But this was $40,000.
Impressive packaging.
This was $40,000, and it's only going to go up. So hold on to that.
For dear life. This is the certificate?
Yeah, you just keep that in your vault. You keep that out where people can look at it.
That this is Cheese Whiz that belonged to Lucille Ball.
Well, I'm not saying it was Cheese Whiz. I don't know. I'm just saying it belonged to
a
her.
Substance that belonged to Lucille Ball.
That's what they told me at the store. And there's her certificate.
This is the happiest Christmas of my life.
Thank you. And now I guess you have something for me.
Yeah, we have it backstage. Let's go get it.
Oh, great.
Let's go get it.
I'm not going to get killed back there, am I? It's dark. Bob? Bob?